Hello and welcome to this Photoshop tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to create mirrored text with lighting effects. So the first thing I'd like you to do is create a new document and then to fill that document with black. So you end up with something like this. Then clicking on your text tool. My text is justified left, so I'm just going to click on the left hand side, and then if you could type in some text of your choice. Then we can use the move arrow here to reposition that text in the center. The guides that pop up there, you can if you click on snap, that will bring those up so you can see where you're positioning your text. We are now going to transfer that text into a smart object to maintain some of the editing capabilities later on if we choose to. And then we're going to go to FX at the bottom. And we're going to select Bevel and Emboss. We're going to make sure Bevel and Emboss is checked. Style is inner bevel. Technique is chisel hard. The depth is set to 100%. The direction is up. And the size is approximately 5 pixels. Then we're going to select our gloss contour. And we're going to check this box here. This is called ring. So making sure that is checked. And then we're going to move over to gradient overlay. And in our gradient overlay we're going to check our presets here and make sure black to white gradient is selected and reverse is checked. The angle is going to be set to 90% and our opacity is going to be set to 60%, and we're going to hit OK. So you can see a nice gradient forming here. We're then going to make a new layer. We're going to bring up view and make sure we can see our rulers, and it's showing our guides. Okay, so we have a center guide created here. Now you can pick up guides from the ruler and drag them into the center, and with snap selected it should hold it into the center spot for you. We're now going to choose our elliptical marquee and hovering the cursor approximately here, so between the top of the document and the text. And then I'm going to hold down Alt as I work, so the selection comes from the center. And I'm going to create a selection which looks something a little bit like this. So bring it approximately to this position here. Once we've done that, we're going to fill that layer with white. So go to Edit and Fill with white. I'm going to set the opacity of this layer to 20%. So just moving over to the right hand side here, bringing down to approximately 20% or close to. And then if we Control or Command click on the thumbnail of the text layer just here, it should make a selection from our text layer, and then we're going to go to Select, Modify and Contract, and we're going to contract it by about 6 pixels, but you can experiment with this. So it brings in our selection a little. We're going to now add a layer mask, and we'll take a layer mask selection, and you'll see that it takes away the elliptical marquee and it continues it through our text. We get a nice line effect moving through. And we're going to place these top two layers in a folder. So with the top one selected, if I hold down Shift, it will select the next one down. Then clicking the down arrow here, new group from layers. You can name your folder. So I'm just going to call this one text. I'm going to press OK there. So they're now neatly in a folder, so contained. We're now going to make a new folder, a new layer, and place it beneath that folder. So it's underneath our text layer. And you can name this one, if we name this one Spotlight, so double clicking, I'm going to put Spotlight, because this is going to be our lighting effects coming in now. We're then going to fill that layer with white. So again, Edit Fill, and making sure it's white. We're going to drop the opacity down to around about 40% or so. Then Edit and Transform and Perspective. And then pulling in one of the corners, top left or top right, to about this position just here. Okay, so it's nearly forming a triangle, and there's double clicking to commit. And we're going to blur, so filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. And the Gaussian blur we want to be around about 100 pixels, so 100 is pretty good to give that softened effect. There we go. At this point we can hide our guide, so we can go to show and turn off our guides, so they are removed. You can bring them back at any point. Then we're going to layer mask our spotlight, so clicking on layer mask, and we're going to use a soft brush, so checking that the brush is with a hardness all the way down, so using a soft brush, and the brush is going to be set to 50% opacity. Okay, so bring that down to about 50. And then once we've got that set to 50%, we're going to be smoothing out some of those areas. But before we do so, we're going to use our brush palette here. So bring in a brush. So once we're on our brush preset, we have ensure we have smoothing checked. And once smoothing is checked, we're going to minimize that window, and we're going to use quite a big brush for this. So making the brush a bit bigger. I'm going to use it to smooth out areas just at the bottom of the spotlight here. So just kind of taking it easy and working away along the bottom, and just to bring that kind of more realistic lighting effect in. So it might take a little bit of practice just to see if you can get the effect you desire. So that's about right, so it looks pretty good. Then we're going to create another new layer, and this one is going to be making sure it's underneath the folder there, and this one's going to add a shadow line, so making our brush a little bit smaller. We're going to place a shadow along the bottom of our text here. So we need to make sure the swatch in the foreground is black. And if we click and approximate this position, then if we hold down Shift, click again in this position, it will draw a black line straight across. Okay, so we now have a nice shadow effect. You can experiment with the opacity here as well to increase or decrease the shadow if you would like. Now we're going to come back to our text folder. So selecting on the text folder, I'm going to make a copy of that text folder. So I'm dragging it down to duplicate. And once we've got that, we can double click on it and we can set it to change the name, so reflection. So this is going to be our reflected text. And once we've got that reflected, we're going to go to edit and transform, and we're going to go to flip vertical. Now using our move tool, we're going to move it down, but we're going to hold Shift first, and that will hold it to the central position. And snap will help us to get it nicely lined up in the center as well. And then we can let go. I'm going to drop the opacity to about 20 to 30%, so bring it down. So I'm going to go for about 24 there. And then we're going to add, or we're going to modify. So if we drop down this arrow here, we'll bring up our more detailed layers. So we can then modify our gradient overlay by double clicking. And once we've got this open, we're going to make sure that reverse is checked. Okay, so once reverse is checked, you'll see that it reverses the reflection effect. So just clicking OK. We can then collapse that folder again, add a layer mask, and this time we're going to use a really big brush. So let's select our brush again. The opacity is going to go up to 100%. So 100% opacity, and we're just going to brush along the bottom of our image to fade in the text a little bit better. So we're going to create a larger brush here. So bringing it up quite big, maybe a little bit smaller than that. So up to about 1000 should be good. And then just painting and just smoothing out some of those areas along the bottom of the text to get a more realistic text effect. There we go. So there you have your lighting effects and your mirrored text. Good luck with this one, and I hope it goes well. Thank you for listening.